Hi everyone, welcome to the Wong Way, Not the Wrong Way podcast. My name is Wilson and I'm the founder of the podcast. And today I'm excited to speak to you about what we have in store. But before I kind of go into that, again, for anyone who hasn't listened to our previous podcast, which was about HR recruitment tips for businesses and best practices they can utilize, I'd highly recommend to watch our previous podcast. Basically for the podcast, essentially the goal is to connect a bunch of professionals together so they can actually learn about some industry or some business specific challenges and basically best practices they can utilize to kind of help with their business or even just kind of learn more about business in general. So today's podcast, the actual focus will actually be talking about how we can, support veterans who have served our country and basically how businesses can actually utilize some of the skills that those veterans have gained. Today I have with me Ryan, who served in the Canadian Armed Forces and is a veteran. So Ryan, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, or coming out.
Yeah, and maybe if you could kind of start off and tell us maybe about some of the your experience kind of working in the military.
For sure. During my time, I made it to Master Corporal, which is basically your lower level management where you're managing teams of up to 10 people, 10 to 30 people, potentially. Further to that, I was a trained sniper and operating with a group of 4 other junior snipers, controlling them, and just most of that was involved with planning, preparation, and carrying out infantry tasks and support of other assault formations. What I have to bring to the mechanic side of things isn't necessarily the hard skills I learned in the Army. However, a lot of stuff I learned there was just communication, which is pretty good skill that's not necessarily taught in a shop, written and oral, and problem solving, managing people, managing stressful situations. So.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and thanks for sharing that, Ryan. Maybe for to give everyone a bit more information as well too. Can you tell us why you joined the podcast today?
Yeah, I joined the podcast because I've known you for a couple of years now. Worked with you. I used your services for a couple of times, and I believe in the cause that you're helping connect employers with qualified, skilled veterans. As a veteran, when I got out, I had a hard time finding a job. I didn't know how to write a resume, and I think that using your services at Modern People Solutions will be a great asset to help guys like me or gals find gainful, work once they get out.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I really appreciate the feedback there. And yeah, I've had a lot of success actually hiring people, from the military, even when they had like the basic mechanical training or even from like the service battalion. So I've hired people, to work as mechanics on the agriculture equipment, people also working in parts or kind of logistics, we'll call it.
Yeah.
And even, a number of them actually became service managers as well. As you had mentioned, you've managed teams in the past and that actually transferred over really well when they became a service manager and they had to deal with all those teams and, communication and all that.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you learn in the Army that you don't necessarily learn as a mechanic on the floor in the shop, as far as like management of people, resources. You get hard training in the Army about managing your teams and managing them well, and interpersonal, problems, dealing with that and resolving those kinds of issues, which is a problem everywhere. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And, I'm sure, from your perspective too, when you've kind of worked in the field, there's like a lot of pressure, you probably developed, the ability to kind of, think on the fly really quick and problem solve and kind of dealing in like really cold, or really hot temperatures. So.
Yeah. Coming from an infantry background, you learn to be uncomfortable and still do your job, even if you don't want to be there, for sure. As well as there's always high stress situations. It prepares you for, dealing with a down machine when you have an angry customer who needs it going right now, and you have to focus on
Yeah.
what you got to do. So,
Yeah, and thanks so much, Ryan, for sharing. I've actually hired a lot of people from the military. Actually, when I've worked at other companies, I've hired a lot of people from the military to work as mechanics, fixing all of the agriculture equipment, and also people to manage the service departments as a service manager. Because as you mentioned, you're used to managing a lot of large teams and communication and getting everyone to kind of work together towards like the same goal. And I've also hired people, for the parts and kind of logistics side. If we kind of talk about, kind of like what is the Wong Way? So for anyone who's not familiar with our tagline yet, the Wong Way is actually best practices for business. So Ryan, what do you think businesses can do in terms of the Wong Way? Which is basically, how can we support, veterans better?
it's good. It's a good question. I think one thing that a business or a recruiter, an HR department in a business can do is, if you have a veteran, apply for a job, there's certain, let's say, industry standard qualifications that you might not see on their resume, but there's a lot of other skills that a former service member will learn, or someone who's transitioning out, as far as heavy on the communication, managing people, managing interpersonal, let's say, disagreements or what have you. There's a lot of things you learn being in the infantry or in the service battalion, working close quarters with a lot of people that you might not find from other applicants on the job that are coming from one shop or from a different brand, different dealership. There's a lot more organizational planning and just human management, man management that is a skill that is required of anyone serving in the military that doesn't really, there's no equivalent course you'll find on the civilian side on the job market. And that's a skill that veterans can often bring, is that they might not have the Red Seal certification, but they have a lot of other skills that they learned through years of just having to get it done and figure it out along the way. So.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So it sounds like, like a lot of life skills that are, a lot, harder to learn, what you learn through the Army, and then some specialized training, and also kind of working under, pressure and kind of different environments, right?
Yeah, lots of high pressure situations, both operationally and in training. One of the highlights of learning things in the Army is that every situation that is a learning event or a training event, it is usually simulated at a high stress situation in practice for doing your job for real, let's say in a wartime situation. So even if it's an easy job, it's always made hard so that you learn how to do it and how to work your way through it and manage your time, manage your stress levels, and there's no quit. That's not usually an option. So that's a benefit of hiring a veteran for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. And, maybe if you'd like to share, with the audience as well too, in terms of, some of the ways, you've worked with Modern People Solutions and how we've, kind of worked with you. Would you like to kind of share your experience?
Yeah, for sure. I met Wilson years back at a job fair when I was getting through my training as a heavy duty mechanic. He was obviously looking to recruit for some local dealerships, and I was looking for a job for local dealerships. So we worked together on that. Big thing for me was when finding out that you were offering assistance with getting a resume tooled up. Again, that's not something you walk out of the Army usually with a good resume. And yeah, the services you offered with that, the consult on how to put one together, some skills at interviewing, and also just the connections that you have in the real world markets, where you have employers on one hand that are asking you to find suitable employees. So the basis of how I got to know you is that you're a guy that had opportunities for me to go look at for work and stuff. So
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, no, thanks so
yeah,
much, Ryan, for sharing your background and kind of experience with us, and also thank you so much also for your service to this country, and for our audience as well too. If you're previously let's say a veteran that has left the army already, or let's say if you're looking to transition out of the military into like civilian work, we'd love to connect with you to see how we can support you. So we can help with like free resume templates. We could also provide you with coaching advice of how you can transfer your skills from the military into other industries. And one of the key industries that we actually deal with is equipment dealerships. So we deal with agriculture equipment dealerships, construction equipment dealerships, and we found some great transferable skills and actually have direct connections where we can connect you directly with employers. If you're a business, it's a great opportunity to actually hire some veterans with some specialized training and some great life skills that they've acquired over time. Some of them have worked in the service battalion, which is kind of like an army mechanic. And then the people who've also worked on the infantry side, they also have some basic mechanical training as well too. So I've seen a lot of people, have great success who have left the military to work as, service technicians, service managers, parts and logistics. And there's also a lot of other opportunities and other industries that we work with. We've also had conversations with companies in the aerospace industry as well too. So if you'd like to learn more, please connect with us, whether you're a previous veteran or a business that's looking to learn more. So thank you again for joining the podcast, The Wong Way, Not the Wrong Way.